So, I just watched the Batman movie and got a few things to say. Now, I'm sure that you've heard a lot of praise around this movie, giving scores of 9 out of 10s, calling it the best Batman movie yet, and all that. And here I am, coming in with a take that is not going to be similar to the rest. Some of the stuff that I might talk about, you might like, and I don't like, and vice versa. And for these differences, you could type in the comments that I'm dumb and I don't understand and all that, but remember that this is my opinion, so that means that I don't care what you say. So, without further ado, let's proceed. And let me talk about the stuff that I do like about the movie. Now, one thing that is very, very well done in this movie is the cinematography. It really captures the mood that they're trying to portray in this city. And with some of the close-ups we see on characters, kind of gives you the mood and tone of what that character would bring if that character was in the room. It shows more detail, it shows more visual depth to the narrative as a whole. The lighting also complements the cinematography. The movie is set during night and therefore has a lot of visually dark parts. And whenever there's light, there's purpose to it. It gives the movie very dramatic visuals. And for a character like Batman, that's how you're supposed to do it, honestly. The setting and tone this movie sets is absolutely perfect for Gotham City. It's supposed to be corrupt, run down, dirty, unsafe to just walk alone in the streets, filled with crime and murder. It was dark and gritty. It accurately represented I mean Gotham, giving us a reason as to why a character like Batman exists in such a world. I love Batman's narration. It reminds me of the speech bubbles he would have in the comics, like for example in Year One. The movie basically gave a voice to the thought bubble text that you would read in the comics. And I absolutely adored how Batman used the tool of fear against his enemies. One scene in the beginning of the movie is when Bruce Wayne explains that he can't be everywhere in such a big city. But the thing is, no one knows where he is, and that makes him paranoid. So we see some scenes with criminals looking at shadows of nothingness, expecting Batman to come out, and he never does. This is also powerful because we're also expecting Batman to come out, but no, we're experiencing what the criminal is experiencing. And when he finally comes out, it truly shows how menacing and terrifying he is to the scum of the earth. I also like that this Batman wanted all the smoke, from criminals or cops. He didn't give a shit.
Hey, what's up, nigga? What's up, nigga? I'm gonna pit bull my face, and I got a
Also, the soundtrack is pretty good. The whole works pretty well, and it sets up the mood of the world very well. The story was good. It portrayed Batman's more detective side, which is something that was not shown very well in the movies, and this took the bulk of it, and which I don't mind really. The story also showcased how smart the Riddler is. Then there's one plot twist that I really liked is when Riddler thought that Batman was working with him. Batman, by accident, helped Riddler kill another target, which reinforced Riddler's delusion that Batman was working with him. And then when Batman revealed to him that was all in his head, I liked it a lot because it showcased how delusional the Riddler is. A plot twist that I don't think is seen a lot in movies. These were all the overall good things that I could think about from the top of my head. But now, let's get into the bad stuff. Now, as a comic book guy, I like when they stick true to the source material, when things are like close to the comics, and they're true to the heart of some of these characters. And I have a lot of issues with how they portray many of these characters. So, let's start off with Mr. Vengeance himself.
Vengeance.
This was basically an emo Batman. He was either brooding or being angry the entire movie. Barely any other emotions showed up. And the way he carries himself was a bit nihilistic for some reason. Maybe this is the understanding that some people perceive Batman to be, but that's not the case really. Yes, he's brooding, but he has charisma. He's direct when he talks to people. But this one just whispers, and at times I didn't even hear what he said. And the way he acts as Bruce Wayne is nearly identical to how he acts as Batman. There was no this whole playboy personality thing to hide up that he's Batman. No, he just acts the same. No wonder the Riddler found out who he was, if that's how he carries himself. Them just ignoring this concept just completely goes against one of Batman's core character traits. The Batman mask is his real mask, and the Bruce Wayne mask is the fake one. And yes, they do address this in the movie, but that statement becomes null and void since he never acts really differently at all. He gives the same looks and demeanor. And speaking of looks, this suit?
This ain't it, Chief!
Now, when they first revealed the suit, they gave us this picture, giving a close-up to his face. And honestly, you could have mistaken this for Charlie Cox's Daredevil, really. I gave it the benefit of the doubt, assuming that it would look better in motion or they change it some way, but no, the suit looks like shit. His mask exposes his jaw too much. You would assume that he would have more protection on his jaw by covering it up a bit more. If not for that, it's for at least concealing his identity, because at that point it's so wide that the mask is only covering the top part of his head and the bottom is just exposed. The eyebrows of his cowls alongside his nose makes him look like an owl for some reason. And these white darts on his gauntlets, I assumed that they would have a purpose for just being there because they're so prominent, but they're just there. This is how Batman is supposed to look. This is not how he's supposed to look.
Well, actually, it's only been 2 years since he was Batman, so it makes sense what he would look like.
Shut the fuck up, he's rich. This is his second year. Why would he go out looking like that? He has all the resources to improve whatever the hell that is. With Michael Keaton, with Christian Bale, especially with Ben Affleck, the suits have been improving over time. And then when we reach Robert Pattinson, we get this. What is this? I get it, they're going for the whole realism thing, but we already did that with Christian Bale, and they didn't make him look stupid while doing it. And when it comes to the Batmobile, it just looks like a 1970s car with a freaking jet engine on its back. Like, there's no aesthetic to it. Yes, he's an early Batman, but goddamn, at least try to make it look aesthetically into the theme, because it looks out of place. Is this Batman after taxes or some shit? Okay, enough from Batman. Let's talk about the other characters. Alfred. Alfred doesn't look like Alfred. Alfred was mistreated. He was sidelined. He didn't get much screen time. And I didn't feel like that there was enough chemistry between him and Bruce. I wanted more from them. His relationship with Alfred could have added more depth to this version of Batman. But no, he just got pushed away. And then we had Jim Gordon, who was black hair for some reason. And at times he seemed incompetent, really. He was just there along the ride with Batman. I kind of wanted their relationship to be fleshed out, to understand why Gordon would trust a vigilante like this after only 2 years of knowing him. I feel like there's a story there that could have been mentioned or shown at least. And then we have Catwoman, who was also race swapped for some reason. Her bodysuit was fine, but then we get to her mask, I'm like, what? Her mask's supposed to be like this. And for her to put all that effort in the suit but then not in her mask, I think it makes her look dumb. I liked her personality trait, although there was a moment where she talks about white privilege, which was kinda cringe. Because one, she's not supposed to be black, and for them to change her look and to have her say that line kind of manufactures the whole white privilege thing, and it doesn't go anywhere. So it was kind of cringe there and was unnecessary. But thankfully, that kind of stuff is not that prominent in the movie. And then we have the Penguin, and I gotta say, they nailed his facial look. He reminds me of Penguin from the Batman Arkham games. But the thing is, he just acts like another Brooklyn mobster. He doesn't really act like the classy criminal that Penguin is. And then we get to Zodiac, I mean Riddler. No, seriously, he looks like fucking Zodiac. They took more inspiration from him looking like Zodiac than they did with Riddler. Like, if you take an image of him without showing his question mark, and we don't know who this character without any context, would this image present to you that this person that's in front of your screen is the freaking Riddler? No, he is unrecognizable. There's nothing that connects him to the Riddler aside from the fact that he makes riddles. As far as his personality and everything, sometimes he acted like Heath Ledger's Joker, especially when he was on his Zoom calls. And I know some people are gonna say that, well, he's not Jim Carrey Riddler. Like, okay, you don't have to be dishonest. There's been more serious depictions of Riddlers, like for example the Arkham games, like for example in Gotham, like for example in some of the more recent comics. You don't have to make him as corny, but also you don't have to make him a Zodiac killer. You don't have to make him unrecognizable. He's supposed to be narcissistic, and he's supposed to have a superiority complex to hide the fact that he's insecure. He's trying to prove that he's better than Batman by trying to outsmart him, when he knows for a fact that Batman's better than him. There's a whole dichotomy between who's smarter, and here he just screams like he has autism for some reason. Also, he blows up parts of Gotham to flood it, which is never really explained. His whole thing that he's trying to defeat corruption and all that, but then he goes ahead and floods innocent people. We're left to speculate. This was never explained by the movie, which is a bit of lazy writing on their part. They could have easily explained that part. I understand that this is a different take. We're going for more on the realism side, except we've already seen that. They've taken drastic approaches from these characters. But if you're gonna take so many drastic approaches to these characters, why even use these names at all? Why not just make new characters? If you're gonna use certain names, I'm not at fault for having a certain expectation on comic books, a literal visual medium. So when I see something that is a character by name but doesn't really portray the character as we're supposed to know them, it becomes a disservice to the fans of the source material that you're taking from. You're at that point prioritizing your vanity project over accurate representation to source material. For me, with comic books, they're all about still images, but we can imagine them moving. And to see them move on the big screen, it would be way more impactful if that same character on panel looked very close to the one on screen, having the character almost pop out of the panels. Now, some people would say, no, that can't be done. Ben Affleck just proved you wrong. And so did Spider-Man. It can be done. Okay. I think I've said enough. So now, let us go into the verdict. The verdict that I will give this movie is an 8 out of 10. Wait, what? From the way you spoke about it, I thought you hated it and then... No, that's just you assuming. My only biggest issue with the movie is how they portrayed the characters. But the story itself, it was good. The tone, it was good. The setting and everything, it felt appropriate. It's just that the characters themselves, I didn't like that I had to pretend that these characters were the characters that I'm familiar with. It bothered me that they changed these characters so much when in reality, they didn't need to change these characters at all. They could have still told their story with more comic accurate characters. If they would have done that, this movie would be almost perfect, but they didn't. For some reason. And the movie being 3 hours long, I didn't really have a problem with that, but at times it did feel long, like especially with how it paces itself. At times you would think that it would end and then nope, the scene comes up, and then nope, another scene comes up. That could have been, I guess, mended a bit. But overall, it's a good experience to sit through. But I don't really want a sequel from this movie. And I already know that they're gonna make one, but I would rather have them establish a universe of characters that are more closer to the characters that I know and love. So yeah, that was my review of The Batman. And I know this video could attract mixed opinions and all that, like I said.
I don't give a shit.
So, thank you for watching, and have a good one.